Hey, welcome to Cult of the News, the tabletop news show where I share with you the things that piqued my interest over the past 2 weeks. So come with me on a journey, possibly a magical journey, but admittedly, probably not. With the season, formerly known as convention season, in full swing, there's been a veritable jamboree of announcements. Needless to say, if you had to shake a stick at all of them, it'd take you at least the best part of an afternoon wasted. Fantasy Flight's in-flight report, which admittedly was stuck on the runway for a hot minute before everyone had to get out and push, but it was still one of the biggest announcements of Gen Con. Online. So yeah, surprising no one, there's going to be more stuff for most things Star Wars. Legion, Armada, X-Wing, though many were surprised at the lack of news about Outer Rim. The rumours and last month's online leaks were verified by Prophecy of Kings, which is a big old expansion for Twilight Imperium 4th edition. Turns out, according to Fantasy Flight, the galaxy has gotten slightly more crowded with 7 never-before-seen new factions for the game, like the gene-altering Makat and the mysterious and ancient Ephirine, something like that. There's a lot in this box, it seems, with 40 new system and hyperlane tiles and new planets and obstacles, 2 new sets of player pieces so you can play with 8 people, leader cards giving you new powers, mechs, new exploration cards and powerful relics to build. It's a really long list of the stuff that's going to come in this expansion, but it also comes with a $100 price tag, so you probably already know if you're going to buy it or not when it's released in November. But Fantasy Flight weren't finished yet, oh no, as they announced the next KeyForge set, Dark Tidings, which replaces the Dis house with the Unfathomable, a new house for the game. The set has new high-low tide cards which start outside the game but then are introduced, and there'll be a battle to control the tide so you can use the power of the high tide in your favour. And there's evil twin decks, which are duplicate decks. Now, given the fact that the whole point of this game is that all the decks are unique, printing duplicate decks does at first seem as bizarre as Tim Burton production of a half-overheard Salvador Dali fever dream. But the decks are evil twins, so if you get a deck called, I don't know, Chaz Marla, then somewhere out there will be a deck named Chaz Marla's Evil Twin, which will have all the same cards, but alternate art and alternate abilities. Like Chaz and his twin, with the evil goatee. Moving away from all this Amerithrash nonsense, let's get on with some good old Euro news with Alexander Pfister. Reliable Alexander, designer of Maracaibo and Great Western Trail, and his new game, Monster Expedition. Alexander? Okay, I'm sure it's just a name. I'm sure you trade grain or something to feed the monsters, and then you trade the monsters themselves in for points somewhere down the line as you hunt for legendary monsters in a dice rolling game. Oh god, I'm shocked. Monster Expedition looks as though it's a Yahtzee variant style dice game where each monster you catch gives you new special powers. It's family weight, published by Amigo, and it's in the same universe as 2019's Carnival of Monsters by Richard Garfield, and it's currently scheduled for release in September. You know, I might be clever on occasion. Given enough sleep and a few lucky rolls, I could be twice as clever from time to time, but I'm not 3 times as clever. That's hot nonsense if you think that. But Clever Hawk Dry, or 3 times as clever, is coming, and I tell you, the second they make that game into an app, boy howdy, what a good time to be alive. So Wolfgang Vorsch, the designer of Quacks Of Quedlinburg, The Mind, Wavelength, is back with his 3rd instalment of his very addictive roll and write in the Clever line. There's a bunch of new ways to score, comboing points galore with the same style gameplay as the previous games. So yeah, sign me up. I actually checked on my phone and I played Doppelt So Clever almost 500 times. Could have written a symphony. Talking about Wolfgang Vorsch like a criminal behind his back, plotting revenge. Well, there's a new expansion to the Quacks of Quedlinburg called The Alchemists. This new expansion can be added in with that and the base game, and it's like brewing a big concoction in a cauldron with all the expansions, so it's accidentally quite thematic. In The Alchemists, players will have new laboratories to work in so that they can distill essences to cure the citizens of Quedlinburg from their afflictions of nightmares, obsession and hysteria. Or don't, it's rather up to you at that point, but the German release will be in October and hopefully the English version won't be too far behind. If you have any news you want mentioned, send it in for consideration to news@whatyouplayed.tv. Also, any hilarious home bloopers, from your daily life. We're open to a format change. Dune! Just as people were getting used to the fact that the previously very hard to come by Dune came back into print last year in a new edition from Gale Force 9, now there's even more Dune to Dune yourself Dune into. Dune. Dune Imperium is an all-new deck building and worker placement Dune game published by Direwolf. How do we know that? Because that's what the teaser trailer says. And that's pretty much all it says. Though, also, I'd have expected it to have been a sandbox game. I'll say it. That's just pandering, I suppose. We know it's going to be inspired by the upcoming Dune film, and the line, "Whom will you influence, whom will you betray?" seems to suggest that you will be worker placementing and deck building to seize control of the universe. So, Dune. But that's it. It's coming soon, and I'm open to being tantalised. There's still so many games to talk about. Waddle Downtown. Why am I talking about Waddle Downtown? Well, penguins are my favourite animal, and I love them, and a lot of that is down to the waddling nature of the noble and clumsy dum-dums of the ice. In this family weight game, players take control of their own waddle of penguins, which is actually the real collective noun for penguins, those dignified and magnificent Arctic buffoons. And you score points based on how good of a day out and about in town you can create for them. It's coming early next year for WizKids, and yeah, I mention it because I love penguins, so judge me if you will. Ashes, Rise of the Phoenixborn is, being reborn. Again, very thematic. Ashes ended last year when the expandable card game was declared complete, but now that Plaid Hat Games have been themselves somewhat reborn, gaining independence following the end of their ownership by Asmodee, Ashes is back, baby! Rodney's gonna be hyped! Plaid Hat, in association with Team Covenant, are bringing us Ashes 1.5, which will be a subscription-based model. So for a quarterly $30 US, you will receive 2 new decks every 3 months. It's going to launch with an updated rule set and an upgrade kit, 350 cards from across the past 23 sets, and followed up by a completely new expansion. For now, the service is only going to be available in Canada and the US, though they will release in a more classic sense after the exclusivity period that the subscription gives you wears off. And the game will only be released once they have 1,000 subscribers, which I'm going to guess that between me writing this and this video coming out, they already have. Or maybe they're on version 2 by now. Who can say? So many more games to talk about. Okay, so there's a new version of Seven Wonders, and while it's not an anniversary edition, it's a new version being released 10 years after the original. And while it's not a redesign, it also kind of is. Everything's a little bit different. The box art is just a little bit different. The rulebook is just a little bit different and streamlined. All the chits, the coins, player boards and cards, you get the idea. They're all just a little bit different. Like, instead of A and B sides of the board, you have day and night sides. And the balance of the game is being updated, so that's coming out later this year as well. And an expansion for Seven Wonders Duel called Agora, which is a new Senate board, as well as new military tokens, 2 new wonders, and 2 new progress tokens, as well as, of course, more cards. But while the new cards might be senators by name, some of them are politicians and some of them are conspirators. So the more you get, the more expensive they are, and the politicians represent influence in one of the 6 Senate chambers on this new Senate board. If you control a chamber, then you get a bonus, and if you control all 6, then you have political supremacy, and you win the game instantly. I'm really very excited about this expansion, and it's going to be out hopefully around Essen. There's so many games. Okay, there's a standalone expansion to the Oink game Insider called Insider Black, which has new cards, new roles, new team option plays. It plays up to 11, and there's rule cards which are really cool because they change what questions you're allowed to ask. Harbour have a new roll and write called Finden, which is a polyomino-based fill your board up type of game where you have to roll dice and then find that set of things on your board and fill your game boards up with polyomino pieces that you choose. It looks very interesting. It looks really tricky, but it looks like it's a lot of fun. And there's a Friday the 13th game from the op called Horror at Camp Crystal Lake, where you are trying to escape from Jason in a big backstabbing push your luck game where you need to try and survive, or at least survive longer than anyone else, which also looks really cool because I really think there should be more horror games. Finally, we have New York, New York. The town's so good they named it twice. But I think Santorini's great too, so they should name that twice. Santorini, New York. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that on October 1st, a sequel to one of my favourite abstract games is coming from Spin Master Games. So in this version, you're building Manhattan, and instead of gods, you have roles like engineer, taxi driver, or fashion designer. It's simultaneous selection and card driven, and the initiative values on the cards determine player order, and you can only win if you manage to become that round's first player. There's also 6 massive skyscrapers to build, and it plays up to 5 players. It looks great, I'm very impressed, I'm really excited about it. Until next time, I'm Matthew Jude, this is Call to the News, and thanks for watching.